like really weird and blown out, but I like how it zooms. It zooms really funny.
That is one zoom.
It's this little thing.
This little thing? Wait.
I think that's the...
I don't want to take a picture. Alright, so Ethel Cain.
Ethel Cain.
There it says, now it says Rick. Aha.
Good? Win frame?
Yes.
Awesome. So, obviously, listening in order, because it's a linear story, kind of. Family Tree intro.
That's the one with like the pearl ass. I will not accept a life I do not deserve.
Maybe?
Like
Yes.
I may be thinking of televangelism.
Televangelism?
Televangelism.
I'm trying to think. It could be Strangers that you're thinking as well.
Maybe.
I don't even know. But yeah, Family Tree intro kind of begins this like series of events where Ethel's father, the preacher of her small town in Alabama, dies in, I believe it's been stated he died in a house fire. And the song kind of shows Ethel feeling immense guilt over her father's death. We don't know why, but we're like, oh, you're hiding something.
And
nefarious deeds.
sorry, I promise I was listening.
No, you're okay.
But two things. One, Ethel's dad is the guy that died in the house fire.
Yes.
Second, is that going to make a noise when the wreck stops?
Probably not.
Good
But
to
I
know.
think it'll record for at least 15 minutes.
Sure.
We'll see. Please work. It'll probably die before it stops recording. So if that happens,
me recording
kinda screwed.
me recording Shakespeare.
Yeah.
The other day.
But yes, so her father.
And she like feels responsible for that somehow?
Yes, or at least so it seems. And so she feels very guilty over his death for some mysterious reason, but also it's like steeped in like the whole religious guilt kind of aspect of it. And it's kind of up to interpretation on whether or not Ethel the character is trans. Hayden was kind of like, do whatever you want with that. Like, I don't care.
Oh,
like, up to your own interpretation.
Lambert in Alien? You know the
I know.
You know who I'm talking about? The assistant, the one that was kind of crying all the time?
Yeah.
Canonically trans, by the way.
Wow! So yeah, there is that aspect to it as well, with like the religious guilt and trauma and whatnot. But she then takes over her father's job as the town's preacher, kind of unwillingly, but like it's kind of this forced expectation of her because she had this like picture perfect childhood where like she was the preacher's daughter and she's got to follow in his footsteps now that he's like tragically died. And her mother's like kind of like a shell of a woman.
Because of the
probably
death.
The death and also like grief, and also like she kind of follows the path of being like the silent, seen, not heard housewife.
I see.
While her father like takes on all of like the praise and whatnot from the town. And then in American Teenager, basically just like
that's a good song.
America sucks, but like pop music.
And also going to see My Secret Lover. Is that the song I'm thinking of?
I think that's the next song. I think that's House in Nebraska.
House in Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Can't skip House in Nebraska. But American Teenager is kind of also showing how Ethel is not really willingly stepping into this role of like becoming the new preacher.
House in Nebraska is? Or
American Teenager is, where she's like, if I seemed off at all, it's probably because I was wasted. Like, I am fucked up. And then House in Nebraska is her also probably fucked up and drunk or whatever, and she's reminiscing about her high school sweetheart, lover, whatever. Yes.
Do you have a charger for that?
No.
Then you probably shouldn't waste all the battery before the prime
That's
sunset
true.
hours. Alright. Now what?
So House in Nebraska, she's reminiscing about Willoughby Tucker, her first one true love, who disappeared, likely during a tornado. There was a newspaper, like a fake newspaper page that Hayden made and then published on like her Tumblr or something, that was like...
That's in the character of Ethel Cain?
In the character of Ethel Cain, or like in the world of Ethel Cain, the cinematic universe. Yeah, so it like kind of was a news article about this tornado that came through town, and it killed like an old man, an old woman in her home, and then a John Doe who was found out in a field, like unrecognizable. He was so like battered from this tornado, and Ethel feels responsible. They believe it's Willoughby because he skipped town after a fight that he had with Ethel, and she's like, oh, it's my fault. He ran away during the tornado and he died, and it's all my fault, and he will never come home. And so this all kind of culminates in her wanting to run away from her life. Does it yet? I'm getting ahead of myself. I think it's Family Tree intro, American Teenager, House in Nebraska, Family Tree, no, Western Nights. Western Nights? Yes. She runs away from home. She goes to a motel, or she just somehow meets a man named Logan, who's like a bad boy, rides a motorcycle, and he like breaks into ATMs and steals the cash, so that he can like just skip town and keep going on the road. And so Ethel
makes sense.
Doesn't really fall in love with him, but she's like, oh, like
so handsome.
He's good enough. And like, I have an unhealthy attachment to the men in my life. And so she and Logan run away together, and then one day they're robbing a bank, and he dies after he's shot by a cop. And it's believed that Logan shot at the cop as well and killed him, or Ethel shot at the cop.
Because she mentioned, I've killed before, I'll kill again. Yeah.
So then after Western Nights, it goes into Family Tree. Best song on the album, arguably. Best song. Where she's like, it's kind of like her own romanticization of like her relationships, and it's like the images of being like either baptized or married, like sitting on a horse, pure white horse, going to the chapel, getting married, or like baptism in the river, and which ties into the religiosity of it all. I don't know. And then she's also kind of like expressing this guilt, or like guilt in the way of not that she feels sorry, but like she is guilty of doing horrible things, whether or not she was like in a bad situation and was forced to do them. And it's kind of implied that not only has she killed a cop, but she's killed her father. This next song is the last song in Act 1. So after Logan dies, Ethel runs away and is kind of like stranded. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't have any clothes. She can't ride Logan's motorcycle. Innuendo, because he's dead, and blood doesn't work like that when you're dead. The next song is Hard Times, which is so sad. Camera, so sad. It basically, her father was molesting her since she was like 9 years old.
No, Medusa.
And that's likely, it kind of talks about like the trauma and like the processing that a lot of victims of like childhood sexual assault go through, where they're like, I still love you and I want to be like you, but also like you're evil and you make me feel terrible about myself. Great stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
And then it's kind of like, okay, she killed her dad. Like, she set that house fire.
Okay.
Like, she needed to get out of that situation. The only way that presented itself was killing him. So, yeah. And then that ends Act 1.
Here we go. And Act 2.
2 begins with Thoroughfare. Honestly, like, that was the first song that I was like, this is kind of skippable. Like, on my first listen, I was like, yeah, no, kind of lame, 9 minutes long, kind of boring. But now it's like so full of depth and beauty and richness, and it's glorious. But it kind of Ethel is a very unreliable narrator throughout Preacher's Daughter, and a lot of what purportedly happens through her perspective is not actually what happened, or it did not happen that way. So within the story, or the context of the story, Ethel is kidnapped off of the side of a road by a man named Isaiah.
This is the one
Texas.
I heard about
Yes.
in the Ethel Kane live stream.
Yes.
Which I didn't watch, but I saw like clips of like the YouTube videos, like this person being themselves for however many minutes, and then the clips of the live stream where she was talking about Isaiah. But yeah, that's where I've heard that name.
Yes. So he kidnaps her off the side of the road in Texas, but within the song, it's her like being like, she's walking along the side of the road. He pulls up next to her and he's like, hey, like, where are you going? Like, I'm from Florida.
Smart.
I'm going to find love in California. Like, do you want to ride? And she's like,
and this takes in Nebraska?
This is in Texas.
She's
originally from Alabama.
It all takes place in Texas.
Yep. Isaiah is from Florida. Ethel is from Alabama. They meet in Texas.
And then do they go to California?
Throughout Thoroughfare, they're heading to California, and they start to fall in love, or like they have to get a motel room with one bed, and like one thing leads to another. But they reach California, and it's kind of neither here nor there whether or not they in real life make it to California, or if it's just some random place in the middle of the woods, or like some town, nowhere town. But they like start to fall in love with each other. And Isaiah's like, I came out here looking for love, and I think I found it, but not where I was expecting it. And Ethel's like, oh my god. All my problems are solved. Yes. And so in the last like 3 minutes of the song, it's kind of just like random vocal, like scatting or whatever. I think that's what it says in Genius lyrics. It's like improvised scatting.
That's so smart.
But I've heard people like analyze it, and you can kind of hear like a man's voice like humming or like singing menacingly underneath Ethel's vocals in Thoroughfare, which is like, oh, she's in his truck, she's in the back of his truck, and he's humming because he's crazy, because he just kidnapped this girl. And there's a missing poster that Hayden made of Ethel, and it's actually based on
Is that the one that was mentioned in like one of the last songs?
Yes.
Where it's like, when my mom sees me on that part was so sad. It was actually so sad when my mom sees me on the side of like the milk carton in Winn-Dixie.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
I think her actual mom in real life commented on her YouTube video, like the official music video for that, or like visualized her, and was like, I love you so much, but also I don't shop at Winn-Dixie or something. I don't know. I can't listen to that song without, or like if I think about my mom while I listen to that song, I'm done. I'm over it.
Brain off.
So Thoroughfare, Ethel's kidnapped. And then the next song, Gibson Girl, which is based off of Thomas Shelby Gibson. He drew a lot of ladies. He drew ladies, like, and like dress designs. And I think I have like a poster or like a piece of paper from something of the Gibson girls, like his drawings of women, which you could say I'm a real Ethel Kane fan. Like I'm the only one. Like I'm the real fan. But in Gibson Girl, Isaiah drugs Ethel.
Ooh.
He gets her addicted to hard drugs. She's like in and out of it, really, really like hazy, and he pimps her out to a lot of different men. And it's kind of her feeling like she's in control, but really she's not. And it's not as empowering as like it's made out to be, which kind of furthers the whole idea of the unreliable narrator. And it's just sad. It's like, oh girl.
Have we already passed the ending of Act 2, or are we still going?
We are still in Act 2. I think there are only really 2 acts, although you could kind of say there's like Act 1, 2, and then 2 Part B.
I'm trying to get like a good dialogue shot. Like,
yeah.
You know that, like,
but it's hard with like no...
It's hard. When my arm acts as a selfie stick, it's not the best.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can put it to this chimney. All right.
Look at this. This is crazy.
Smart.
Oh, it ripped. Anyways, so Gibson Girl, she's on drugs. She's being pimped out. Not great. And then the next song, Ptolemea, which is the first song I ever listened to by Ethel Cain.
Oh, I should have restarted the. Hold on. Very sorry. All right, Gibson Girl.
Gibson Girl, pimped out on drugs. Attic. She's like locked in an attic in Isaiah's house, either in California or just somewhere random. She's like super duper like hazy and out of it. Thus begins Ptolemea, still in the attic, where either the devil, death, God, or Isaiah, or all of them are taunting Ethel. Probably not God, because God's kind of like benevolent in a way. Like God really doesn't play into the story as other than like some kind of icon, and even then it's like just as like a focal point for Christianity.
But like the devil and what else is taunting her?
Isaiah. The devil, death, like a figure of death, or Isaiah, or all three. And they're basically like, you're such a terrible person. Like, you pretend that you're so perfect and you're like the preacher's daughter, but actually like you're a murderer and you can't run from me.
And you've been pimped out.
Yeah, like you're a whore. And like Ethel's like, please stop. Like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, I'm afraid. And like, there's such a cathartic moment where she's like Isaiah is attacking her whilst all of this is going on, and like it's a super like, I don't even know what, like there's a better word to describe it other than like super hazy or whatever, but she's like on so many drugs.
Yeah.
Like I can't even emphasize how many drugs she's on. Surprising that doesn't kill her in the end, but Isaiah is attacking Ethel in this attic, and she's like screaming at him to stop, and like how like all she's ever known is abuse from these men that like are supposed to love her. And then I believe it's death at the end, where it's like, you can't run from me, I'm inescapable, like you can try, like, but this was foretold, like this is your destiny, this is like what happens to the daughters of Cain. And
there's levels.
Yeah. And so then the next song is completely instrumental and like ambient, called August Underground, which snuff film reference. Yeah. Scary.
I'm so glad that I don't get the reference.
August Underground is a snuff film that's like just pure like torture porn. Like it's like horrifying.
Me when Videodrome.
Literally Videodrome reference, but like 10 times worse. And so August Underground is kind of the soundtrack to Ethel actually dying, like being murdered by Isaiah. And then after August Underground is Televangelism, which is more about her like ascension into heaven and her like spiritual death rather than her physical death. And it's very haunting and sad and melodic. And I believe it was completely improvised. Like she just sat down to the piano and recorded it. And like that's
I remember liking the song.
I really like it in like certain moments, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm not in the mood for like really sad melancholy piano. And then so
it's
Televangelism
it's like
is
a
her
laser beam when the sun shows up. It's so cool.
That was quite nice. So yeah, televangelism is her spiritual death, and her like ascension into heaven. And then after that is Sun-Bleached Flies.
That song was sad.
Which, oh my god.
That song was sad.
Pretty much her looking back at her entire life.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, like my life, I just let it pass me by, and like I was heartbroken, I was abused, but I still placed all of my like trust and faith in this being, and look where it got me. I'm still dead, haunting the narrative.
It's sad. It's sad.
Laura Palmer, I miss you every day. Anyways, So very, very sad. And then Strangers is kind of her watching from beyond life, in the afterlife, whatever, at like what's happening, where Isaiah eats her. He takes her from the attic where he kills her down to the basement where he puts her in the freezer. And then Hayden has said that it's less of like the cannibalism as like an act of true love and devotion. Like, that man did not love her.
No.
If I ever catch anybody saying that man loved her, you're going in my freezer. But it's more so that he's like on the run from the cops. He's in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. He's poor. He's starving. He's
that's the worst thing.
He's
poor.
Coked out.
Poor is the worst thing.
He's freaking poor. But like, he's on a bunch of drugs, and he's desperate, and so he needs food, and he eats her, and like gets violently ill from it because he's on a lot of drugs. Isaiah eats Ethel out of desperation, and then gets sick, and she kind of is taunting him from the beyond, and is like, like, I hope you feel sickened by what you did to me. Like,
I hope my rotten body makes you ill.
I hope that you consuming my human flesh makes you so violently ill for what you've done. And also it's kind of her talking to her mother and being like, don't,
so
like,
sad.
I'm so sad and I'm so sorry.
So sad.
And like, don't read the news about what happened to me when it comes out, because you will never be able to sleep again. And
you
like,
already troubled woman.
Yeah, you already very troubled woman who's lost her husband, and now her daughter's run away, and she doesn't really know what's happened to me, and like, I'm so sorry for everything that's happened, but also like, I love you, and I'll see you when you die. Love you, Mom.
That song is so sad.
It's so sad. Like, I feel like I'm being too silly describing it, but I don't have the like proper eloquent words to describe it.
It's also roof time.
Yeah, it is also roof time, and the sun is in my eyes, so I can't really.
Ollie, if you're seeing this, I got the explanation not too long ago of like you following me, and then me not knowing that was you, so I only liked a few things. That's on me. That's on me. Also, good picks and 4 favorites, by the way. I have not seen the Doom Generation yet, but I should.